Happy Maker Monday. Today we're going to talk a super basic beginner skill. So got a couple people ask me to do more basic stuff because I forget that we have new people here all the time. So today we're going to talk about flippy corners. Yeah, there's more technical terms for it, but that's just flippy corners just makes sense. Good example of the flippy corner technique is this gems and stones pattern back here. So sometimes you do what's called a snowball block, which is usually a square that you do flippy corners on. Sometimes you'll do flying geese as flippy corners. Sometimes you'll do strip sets with flipped ends on them that make star shapes. There's lots of different uses for flippy corners, but I'm going to show you basically the most straightforward version, which is kind of this snowball technique. You can cut triangles and sew them on. I get kind of itchy anytime I have to cut a triangle from point to point across the bias and then sew it to another one, because then you're putting two pieces of bias together, which can only end in tears. So we're going to talk about the way that most of us learned how to do this, and then I'm going to show you two new tools that kind of does it. It's pretty much the same way, but the tools make it more clean and straightforward. What traditionally we would do is we would mark a line. Lined these up suggestively, put a pin, and sew from here to here. We're going to call this the OG method. And then we're going to do a couple of different trimmers, or a couple of different ways. So we've marked our line, same thing. We're going to mark our line. We're going to put this on here again. We're going to line this up. Now, this ruler, maybe you don't sew so straight. No judgment, just saying. Maybe when you try to hit a line, it's more of a suggestion than a rule. So we're going to demonstrate that on this one. So we're going to do this with a Bloc Loc. So we'll call this the BL. Okay. So we're going to put that on there, and I'm going to sew this like maybe I've had a few. Cut the extra fabric off, and then we would press this. Okay. Comes out not too bad. It's not horrible, but it's not perfect. We're going to do the same thing with this one. You can either cut this away with scissors, or you can use your rotary cutter and a ruler. I usually just cut them away with scissors. I call this goose poop because this is what you cut off when you make flying geese. If you want to get really bonkers, you can sew these together and make like little 1-inch finished half square triangles. And I'm going to press this one again. Okay, so there's a couple of things you're going to notice. These are not straight. And in all the years that I've been doing flippy corners this way, they're straight 2/3 of the time. But when I go to sew this to another one that is right, so if I went to go put these two together and my ankles didn't quite line up, do you see how these down here line up perfectly? So it's going to make a secondary pattern here. These ones at the top, they don't line up so much. They're kind of funky and messy. So there's a couple of things we can do. If I have wonky flippy corners, what I like to do is use my Bloc Loc ruler. So this is a 4.5-inch Bloc Loc. You can use anything that's bigger than the size you're cutting down to. Okay, so the way Bloc Locs work, the logo always goes on the low side. So here's my fabric, the dip goes down. This is the low side. We're going to pop this on so that it picks up that seam, right? And when we do that, you can see when you line up your 2-inch pit right here, you can see the block, or you can see the block underneath, and you can see how far off you are. So you can use the trimmer to trim away the edge, and then you slide the ruler up this way, and you line the edge up with your block again, and if there's anything to trim away, you can. Do the same thing on this side. Logo goes on the low side. This is a way that you may or may not have seen yet. If you're like me and you don't like marking that stupid line, and you don't have a laser line on your machine, You can do it like this too. You can take the square and match it up in the corner. This is the Quick Trim ruler by Karen Montgomery. I know I have shown you how to make circles with this ruler before, but this ruler does a bunch of other really kind of fun, cool things too. You can use this line here, this black line. If you line this black line up with the edge of your block, you can draw the line and sew on it. If you would rather not draw the line, you can turn it this way and see these white lines that crisscross right there at the 1/4 inch seam line. You can line those white cross lines up here. So this line goes at the top of your fabric and lines up all that way. This line goes on the side of your block. Okay, I like having a long reference point because just because it matches in this corner right here doesn't mean it matches all the way around. So if this line is all the way along your block and this line is all the way along your square, now you can just take your cutter and you can cut off the goose poop and there's no line drawing. You can pin this if you need to, but honestly, since you have engineered points now, just line up the engineered points. We always talk about setting the seam, so we're going to set the seam and press it out. And now, look, it's perfect. It's a really fun ruler. So again, to talk about the Gems and Stones pattern, my friend Brooke wrote this pattern. It is brilliant. I love it. This is my second time making it. If you have fabric in your stash, or you need some, that has big prints like that, this is the perfect quilt for that. A really easy project. All right, see you later.